Welcome back into College Football Every Game on the Board podcast. Drew Martin, mid-major Matt, breaking it down, the middle portion here of the Saturday, November 22nd card. Follow Matt on Twitter at mid-major Matt. Matt, welcome in. How you feeling, bud?
Feeling good. Hoping to replicate last week. We gave out a easy winner with Tulsa +3 and a sprinkle on the money line, and they destroyed Oregon State, who had no interest in being in Oklahoma. So hoping we can find another winner this week.
Absolutely. Nice call there. We'll hope to back it up here. Week 13 action. As we are going down in order, in rotation order, that is 151, 152, Miami, Virginia Tech on the Saturday card. About 15 games down here. So let's start it off, Matt. In the ACC, we are seeing the Hurricanes minus 18-point road favorites. There is 17.5 available, 48 and a hook being the total. We're talking the Miami Hurricanes, Virginia Tech Hokies at the top here, Matt. And I'll tell you, a lot going on, a lot of cross currents here. First off, a big number, Hurricanes laying on the road. Can be a tough place to play, although an early kick in Lane Stadium. Virginia Tech just got a new head coach. Not sure if that works into your handicap at all, but I'll throw it over to you. What are you thinking here, Miami and Virginia Tech?
So a lot of the handicap for this week is motivation, both in terms of bowl motivation, season-ending motivation, championship game motivation. Miami has a very small chance. They need like 8 things to happen for them to make the ACC championship game, yet they are the number 1 team in the ACC when it comes to the college football playoff rankings, which is fascinating to me. Doesn't say much for the conference. So obviously they want to win, and they need to keep winning. And then you mentioned that Virginia Tech has a new head coach, and look, I think college football nowadays, James Franklin's going to come in and gently tell some players he doesn't need them. And I think there's going to be a lot of players who just won't be on this roster next year. So I don't know how much of a motivating factor that will be. I think we could get a decent crowd in this game, but Virginia Tech just doesn't win games like this. And next week is their Super Bowl because they play UVA and can knock them out of the ACC championship game. I expect a decent effort from Virginia Tech. I'm not going to go out there and say that I think they're going to cover in this game, but I'm certainly not laying the points with Miami, who at times can, play down a little bit to their competition.
Matt, I have a question for you, and it works into handicapping these games down the stretch of college football. You're the best person I would know to answer this question. I believe in the past, meaning years ago in college football, if you signed a FBS football scholarship and you showed up and you got the grade point average you needed, you could stay at that university for 5 years for free, pretty much. Like if you did your job. Now with the NIL and transfer portal, does it work the same? Like when you sign you're going to this college to play college football, even if you realize you're not good enough to play on the field and they get a new head coach, can you stay there if you wanted to at Virginia Tech, or could he come in and literally kick people off the team?
Well, I think it's all about your scholarship. NIL and scholarship are completely different. And so they can revoke your scholarship. I think there's some teams that do 4-year scholarships. Some teams do year-to-year scholarships. And so for the most part, we never hear about the renewals, of like the players that we know. But if you're a year-to-year scholarship school, I feel like you can revoke a scholarship and gently encourage someone to transfer out of the program because you're no longer needed. Yeah, I think there's no guarantees anymore, I think, unless you're doing a 4-year scholarship, which I'm sure some schools do.
I thought they all did. No?
I think for the most part, like the important players, yes. But I think if you're not sure about a player, you might do like a 1-year scholarship and then renew it if you need to. I mean, that's
Interesting. All right. Thanks for breaking that down, man. We'll move down the list back to the games 153, 154, 415.
Whatever, anywhere. We'll start on the Coastal side. Coastal's loss last week to Georgia Southern means they will not win the Eastern Division. That means JMU wins the Eastern Division. So Coastal Carolina is basically playing for a bowl game. They've scored 40 points or more in 4 straight games, but they lost the quarterback who did it. Samari Collier injured his knee. He's probably done for the season. Tad Hudson will take over. He's got 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the season. So Coastal's offense goes bye-bye. Like this is no longer is a viable offense because Collier's not in there. Then on the South Carolina side, you lose a 27-point lead in the first half. You're up 30-3 at halftime. You don't score in the second half. You lose 31-30 to Texas A&M. You've got your rivalry game next week. I don't know which team shows up here. I really wanted to play the over. If Collier was playing in this game, I would have played the over here because I think Coastal would have scored some points. Now I don't know. So far in Shane Beamer's career with South Carolina, they've played one easy opponent before the Clemson game. That was last year. They played Wofford. They beat them 56-12 as a 42-point favorite. So they're 1-0 against the spread in the easy games before the rivalry game. So I don't know. I to be honest, Drew, I was ready to take Coastal if Collier was in the game. He's not. I might go the under here. I might. I just don't know who's motivated for this game. I don't know who's excited to play in this game. This is going to have a sleepy atmosphere. So this one's a tough one to handicap because neither team really has anything to play for this week.
For sure, Matt, as we got an SEC matchup up next, kicking us off on Saturday, 12 noon Eastern. It is Missouri and Oklahoma. Sooners, -7.5 at most shops. There is -8 out there. 41 and a hook being the total. I handicap this one, Matt. I kind of like Oklahoma here, although Missouri did score 49 points last time out. It's just Oklahoma has put together 2 consecutive wins that are 2 of the best really in college football, at Alabama, at Tennessee, winning both outright as the dog. And there's a matchup handicap I like here, Matt, in that Missouri's run rate is very high. They run the ball a lot. Oklahoma, they have one of the best run defenses in the country. They're letting up less than 2.5 yards per carry against. So I think Missouri is going to be running in right into the teeth of this Oklahoma defense. That's the way I handicap it. I think the Sooners find a 7 and a hook, find a 7 if you can, and go with the Sooners over Missouri. Do you like anything in this game?
I'm just worried about them off of the emotional wins over Tennessee and Alabama. I mean, granted, they are coming home. I mean, so you shouldn't have an issue. There's no look ahead. I mean, LSU's next week, but LSU's not LSU anymore. So, it's not really a look ahead. Oklahoma's not playing for the SEC championship, so they can't get there. So, look, they want to keep winning. They're on the outside, I believe, looking in, or they're in the lower part of the College Football Playoff Committee rankings. So they want to keep playing well for that. And then Missouri's not going to have their starting quarterback again this week. Matt Zollers is going to play, and the offense looked good against Mississippi State, but that's a whole different defense than Oklahoma. So it's a weird handicap here, Drew, because I just don't know where Oklahoma's head is at after 2 really emotional wins on the road. They should play well. They should win this game, but Missouri is decent, and this could be a lower possession game. Case in point, the lower total here.
Yeah, that's a good point. The spot matters in college football a lot. And I don't mean like the home team. I mean when you're actually playing the game. That's a great point there, Matt. We'll move down the list. Man, this is always a tricky handicap here. The Georgia Bulldogs laying 43.5 between the hedges, hosting Charlotte, the 49ers, 53.5 being the total. This is an early kick, 12:45 Eastern. Does Georgia want to win by that much is the question. Kirby Smart isn't a guy that usually runs up the score. There's not a whole lot of need to. If you made me bet it, I would be on Charlotte plus the 43.5, but this isn't really my cup of tea, Matt.
So Charlotte's team total is either 3.5 or 4.5 for this game, which is crazy. They're terrible. So, you can't ask them to do very much. Here's the interesting thing. So 4 times under Kirby Smart, Georgia has played an easy game before the Georgia Tech game because they have Georgia Tech, and that's a huge game for both teams next week. Last year, they did not cover as a 42-point favorite against UMass. They won 59-21. 2021, they did not cover as a 51-point favorite against Charleston Southern. They won 56-7. 2018, they did not cover as a 41.5-point favorite against UMass. They won 66-27. And 2016, they did not cover as a 21.5-point favorite over Louisiana in a 35-21 victory. So they are 0-4 ATS under Kirby Smart in this situation, playing an easy non-conference game before Georgia Tech. Doesn't mean I'm going to run out there and take Charlotte, but I think that you're going to get a half effort from Georgia, if that, in this game. I'd almost consider maybe the under here. I just don't know if Charlotte scores, and if they do, it could be a field goal late just to say, hey, we put up some points on Georgia here. But coming off the win over Texas, the rivalry game against Georgia Tech in Atlanta next, I just can't imagine we're going to see a great effort from Georgia. I guess the overwhelming advice here is just don't run to take the 43.5 because, as we've seen, Kirby Smart not great in this situation covering the spread.
Yeah, those are some great statistics there, Matt. Looking that up, the one thing I would worry about with the under is in those two UMass games you brought up. UMass went for 20 plus points in both.
Yeah.
That makes me think. He's a defensive minded coach. He's taken out his first and maybe his second. His two deep. I'm guessing there's a lot of walk-ons there in the second half of those games for UMass to put up that point.
Which makes it, if you really want to get dangerous, take the over 3.5 or 4.5 for Charlotte and just hope that they score a touchdown. I mean, that's a possibility as well.
Yeah. If you're a gambler out there, and hey, I don't know, I would lean with the 49ers. We got TCU and Houston up next. Little Lone Star State battle, and I don't mean little. -1. That is Houston is the home favorite. There is 1.5 out there. 55 being the total. Good matchup here, TCU and Houston.
I like Houston in this game. They've got an outside shot at the title game. They need some things to happen. I also, as somebody who needs Utah to make the title game, I need Houston to win this game here. But I like Houston. They've got the late bye week. We're going to talk about some different teams who have that late bye week. They're coming off the bye, so they've had 2 weeks to get ready for this game. TCU did not play very well at BYU last time out. They're 6-4. They're going to make a bowl game. Who knows how great of a bowl game it is. And I think Houston matches up well against TCU in their strengths here. So I like Houston. I would probably take the money line only because, once again, I don't want to have to rely on potentially, a field goal at the end or something like that. I do think Houston wins this game. So give me the Cougars in this situation.
So the Cougars off of the Friday night in Orlando, then they had the bye week. I saw them in person the last game then, Matt. I'll tell you this, they're good. They got a lot of good athletes on that roster. I think they're well coached under Willie Fritz. Just from watching the game in person in the bounce house, Wegman struggles a little bit, their quarterback. That's one worry I have a little, just because, I don't know, like throwing the deep ball, he didn't have too much touch on it. That's the one thing I would worry about. But yeah, I think Houston is a pretty solid team overall. -1, -1.5 there, guys, towards the Cougars. We got Colorado State and Boise State up next on the blue turf in Albertson Stadium, I believe. -16.5. That is Boise State is the home favorite. 46.5 being the total in this Mountain West matchup, Matt.
So Boise State's in the mix for the title game for the Mountain West. So there is a little bit of motivation, but you have to wonder where their head's at after losing last week. And their backup quarterback's just not very good. Cutforth is not a very good quarterback here. They're part of a very large 5-way tie at 4-2 in this conference. San Diego State's at 5-1. Boise State's at 4-2. So there is a lot of different scenarios here for the Mountain West Championship game. One team that's not playing in the Mountain West Championship game or can't is Colorado State. This is just a tough game. I don't like Boise State's offense with the backup in, but I don't know what Colorado State's got left. It's a little bit of a rivalry game here, but not enough to make me want to play Colorado State here. So this one's probably a pass. Boise's going to have the motivation here, but can they overcome bad quarterback play to get the cover here?
We'll stay in the Big 12, or actually we'll head to the Big 12 for the next two games. Kansas State and Utah. 4:00 Eastern, 1:00 Pacific in Salt Lake. It is -17.5. That's the Utes as the home favorite. 51.5 being the total.
So Kansas State's 5-5. I guess they still want to play a bowl game. They're playing Colorado at home next week, so they should win there. They're not going to win at Utah. Utah still has an outside shot at title game, thank goodness, because I have Utah to make the conference championship game. I had that preseason. They need a 4-way tie ultimately because they can't beat BYU or Texas Tech because they lost to both of them. But Utah's playing some amazing football right now. 55-28 win at Baylor. Like, the backup quarterback has been playing really well. They think Dampier's going to be available for this game, but I'd have a package of plays for both of them. I'd play both quarterbacks if I was Utah. You know how much respect I have for Kyle Whittingham here. I think Kansas State puts up a decent fight, but Utah's just so much better, and they're playing some great football now, and they're motivated by the fact that they're just on the outside looking in on the playoff rankings. I think they're first or second out from the committee's rankings last week, which means style points come into play. If they get the opportunity to score late, they're going to do so because they need to impress the committee.
Staying in the Big 12 Conference, Colorado at home hosting Arizona State. We are seeing the Sun Devils -7 or -7.5 split line on a key number here. That's the Sun Devils as the road favorite, 48 being the total. Boulder, Colorado, Arizona State at Colorado.
So I need Arizona State to win here. They have an outside shot. There's a team that is in the mix and tied with everybody else. Once again, there's a bunch of 5-2 teams in this conference, so they have a small shot if things break their way. They didn't look great against West Virginia. They need to come back late to beat West Virginia last week. They have the rivalry game next Friday on Black Friday against Arizona. Their number one wide receiver, Jordan Tyson, is questionable, but we talked about this before. Jeff Sims has been all right for this team. Like, Jeff Sims is their backup, but like, we know what he can do. He's got some talent, and so far they've played better with him so far. Colorado's coming off the bye week. They're not going to make a bowl game. We've seen Coach Prime talking about how he's the guy for the job, and the AD came out and said he gave him the vote of confidence and everything. I just don't know where Colorado's head's at. Like, I think the bye week is good for good teams at the end of the season, gives them an opportunity to refresh a little bit and get ready down the stretch. For bad teams who I think are ready to go home, I don't know where their head will be at after that extra week. Because, I think they're going to sit there and be like, yeah, we were ready for the season to end. I know that they're home, so I think that's going to help. One stat to watch here, Arizona State has the second most sacks in the conference. Colorado has given up the most sacks in the conference. Their quarterback play is not great. I don't think it can take advantage of a bad pass defense for Arizona State. So I think the Sun Devils win this game on the road against Colorado.
Jeff Sims, Matt, over under, he's been in college for 6 years.
It feels like it's been longer than that, but I'll say 6 years might be about right.
Yeah. I remember him pre-COVID there, taking snaps with Georgia Tech, I believe, as a freshman. Interesting there. He's still around taking snaps for Arizona State here. We got Nevada, Wyoming up next, 2:00 Eastern, I believe 11 a.m. local time, might be noon. Not sure which time zone Wyoming is in, but Wyoming -6.5 is the home favorite, 39.5 being the total. So Laramie, Wyoming, the highest elevation home field advantage. We are seeing Nevada. Oh, miserable year on the road at Wyoming here, Matt.
So Nevada's coming off a very impressive win over San Jose State last week, 55-10. Yeah. They have no bowl game. They have no bowl future, but I always like to play bad teams sometimes off of a win because they gather that temporary momentum. They do have the victory cannon game next week, the battle against UNLV. So that's a very important game for Nevada. It is in Reno. And I know how that's how they like to be referred to. I was actually talking to the UNLV transfer who's on Virginia's team, and I asked him, I was like, so how intense was the victory cannon rivalry? He's like, dude, I hate Reno. I never liked Reno. And so I know how intense that rivalry is. And then on the Wyoming side, there are actually rumors that Josh Allen's coming to the game on Saturday. First time since his pro day that he will be back in Laramie. So who knows? Maybe that's a little bit of motivation for Wyoming. Problem is Caden Anderson's terrible. He's 18 for his last 47. He's got 4 interceptions. The offense has done absolutely nothing lately. You can understand why this is a really low total because Wyoming ain't going to help very much, and their defense should show up, but their offense is brutal. I'd almost consider under 24.5 points for Wyoming because their offense is just horrible right now.
You brought up that game from last week. That was one of the more surprising results. Nevada blowing out, getting the win. I was actually, personally, I bet the other side and took the loss. I just don't know where that came from. It came out of nowhere, Matt, them putting up 50-plus points against San Jose State.
Yeah, considering they've played 3 different quarterbacks and Nevada looked like a team that was ready to go home, that was out of nowhere. So that probably tells you something about where San Jose State is right now.
Yeah, for sure. As we got back to the Big 12 up next, Baylor and Arizona, 169-170. This is 1:00 Eastern. So 11 a.m. local time here. Arizona -7 as the home favorite. There is a 6.5 with some juice out there. 62.5 being the total. Good matchup here in Tucson, Arizona in the Big 12 matchup.
Yeah, Baylor needs one more win for bowl eligibility. They are the number 1 passing offense in the conference. Arizona is the number 1 pass defense. Fun stat, Arizona has not given up more than 200 passing yards since the first conference game of the season when Rocco Becht had 243. The most they allowed since then was 199 to Jalen Daniels. So this is Sawyer Robertson against a really good secondary and a really good pass defense. Baylor's defense, not so good. 10 sacks in 10 games so far. Arizona has allowed a ton of sacks. So this would have been an advantage for Baylor, but their defensive line is just not very good. There's some potential rain in the forecast, which could make things a little bit interesting here. Arizona does have the rivalry game next week against Arizona State on Black Friday, but still, I like the Wildcats here. I like their defense where it's at right now. I just think they're playing some better football right now, and I don't think Baylor can take advantage of where Arizona's weakest at.
We got Cal and Stanford up next here, Matt. The band is on the field. It is the Golden Bears, -3 as the road favorite, 46.5 being the total. Cal-Stanford rivalry on the farm here, Matt.
Yeah, both teams coming off a bye week, which, I mean, look, for a rivalry game, I think you're going to get max effort. And I'll tell you this, whoever loses this game is probably going to is not going to be very good next week. Like, this is the game that they're going to put a lot in. Cal 6-4, they're going to make a bowl game. They've had a very good season. They've been different on the road than they have been at home. Stanford has been a little bit different at home than they've been on the road too, but they're 3-7. Their season's over no matter what. So I expect max effort here from both teams, and I'll be fading whoever loses this game next week. Now, granted, Stanford's playing Notre Dame, so they're going to lose anyway. But I really think this is going to be an interesting game. I could see Stanford covering that number here potentially. I could see Stanford, even though they have an interim coach and it's been a miserable season, I could see them laying it all on the line for a game like this against Cal. It was a close game last year, 24-21. I slight lean, probably not something I'm going to play, but slight lean to Stanford here.
And Matt, you bring up Cal's home road dichotomy. In your handicap, does it matter like where the game's being played? Like, they are the road team, yes, but it's in Palo Alto here. Stanford, it's not, all the way on the East Coast in the ACC. Does that matter?
No, I mean, it does somewhat. You're right that because they don't have far to travel, but they did come off of a road win at Louisville last week. So, it's a second straight road game for them. Granted, that was a couple weeks ago, but you're right in terms of it's not the East Coast coming west or the West coming east or anything like that. So I think that helps, but I'm more so leaning towards the rivalry aspect here. And I just think Stanford is not a good team, but I think they give it their all. I think there's some plays inserted during get fun between these two teams.
Yeah, should be a fun one to watch there. 7:30 Eastern, Cal and Stanford. We get Arkansas and Texas up next. 3:30 Eastern kick here with the Longhorns. -8.5 to as high as -9.5, depending where you're shopping. As the home favorite, 58 being the total in Austin, Texas.
So what's the motivation here for either side? Arkansas's had a terrible season. They probably should have won in Death Valley last week. They didn't. They lost late, so they're now 2-8. The season's it's been over for a while. And then on the Texas side, nasty sandwich here, coming off the loss at Georgia and then the home game against Texas A&M next week. Like, that's the game they want. They want to end Texas A&M's undefeated season. Now, that's not going to push them into the playoffs or anything, but it's going to, help them in the rivalry situation here. Last year, Texas beat Kentucky 31-14 as 19-point favorites before the A&M game. There's only been, I think that was the only other game that Texas has had a game before the rivalry against Texas A&M. So obviously they didn't cover last year. There's also the weird thing about Steve Sarkisian. Some people are wondering, is he focused on this team? Does he want to leave? What's going on in the locker room? There's all these weird stories surrounding Texas in this game. Basically what I'm saying is I can't play either side here. Texas is going to win. But did Arkansas give it their all last week and now they don't have anything left in the tank for Texas, who's clearly going to be looking ahead to next week and knocking off Texas A&M at home? So this one's probably a tough game to handicap here because I don't know where anybody's motivation is for this matchup.
And what's the news on Sark? He would really want to leave Texas. It seems like he's got a nice gig there. Well,
so there was an article on, I think it was Football Scoop, on Twitter, who I think does a really good job. It was either football. Yeah. There's an article that talks about him addressing his speculation at Texas, what's his future at Texas. And then there was another article that was quote tweeted off of that kind of talked about what's this weird vibe going on in the Texas locker room and certainly around Sarkisian and stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, I think they'll win this game, as I said. I just don't know if I'm going to ask them to cover here. Because, Arch Manning, there's two Arch Mannings. There's the really good Arch Manning that would throw for 5 touchdowns here. And then there's the bad Arch Manning that throws 3 interceptions here. So I have no idea what we're going to get in this situation.
All right, man. Let's head to Southern California up next into the Rose Bowl. UCLA hosting Washington. This is a late night kick, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 local time It is the Huskies, minus 10 and a hook across the board as the road favorite, 51.5 being the total.
So this is a tough game too, and you're going to see a lot of these motivation factors like the rest of the card and the rest of the week. Like Washington has Oregon at home next week. Washington on the road this year, and once again, it doesn't matter as much because they're staying on the West Coast, but Washington is a completely different team on the road this year. They have not scored more than 24 points in the 3 road games outside of their state. So this is a team that completely lives off of their home crowd. They have a larger game next week against Oregon. UCLA played bad against Ohio State, but it was Luke Duncan who was under center, not Nico Iamaleava. We don't know if Nico's going to be available for this game. If Nico's available, I might be interested in UCLA plus the points. If he's not available, this one's probably a pass for me. But I just think that this is a situation where I don't trust the backup for UCLA. I don't trust Washington outside their own building, and I don't trust Washington with a larger game coming up next week. If Nico plays, I might be interested in UCLA. If he doesn't, this one's a pass.
Did you see that UCLA is going to change their home venue and go play where the Chargers and Rams play their home games? They're going to leave the Rose Bowl. Yeah.
Interesting.
You think that's a good decision?
Who knows? They don't really care about football there. Let's be honest. Although I do find it interesting that the rumors continue to persist about Bob Chesney to UCLA, which makes zero sense from either side of it. I saw Jed Fish's name thrown out there. I think Jed Fish makes more sense for UCLA than Bob Chesney does. But UCLA, I think UCLA got burned. I think UCLA will stop spending as much money on football. They spent a lot of money on Nico, thinking it was going to get them a bowl game, more attention and everything. And there's going to be no bowl game. And they've gotten the same amount of attention that they've always gotten. So I feel like that was a message to this athletic department that hey, we're just going to continue to spend money on basketball and kind of let football be a little bit.
In talking, ESPN Richmond there, Mid-Major Matt Josephs at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. You're in around talking to these head coaches. Are you hearing anything kind of in the head coach talk out there? Any transitions you wanted to throw out?
Not really. I mean, look, I thought that James Franklin was using Virginia Tech the whole time for a different job. My thing is, I think for James Franklin's a good hire for Virginia Tech, but I also wonder why no one else wanted him, or at least no one else outwardly wanted him. No one else was like, oh, man, we didn't get James Franklin. And with all the high-profile job openings, I know Lane Kiffin, everybody wants Lane Kiffin. He can't coach in LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida. He can't coach everywhere. So I wonder why people didn't want James Franklin more. I applaud Virginia Tech for getting their guy. The Bob Chesney thing, here's where I've been telling everybody. I don't think I would worry as much about Bob Chesney leaving in the first go-round. I think it's the second or third go-round. So let me give you an example. Let's say Lane Kiffin goes to Florida. Let's say, and I don't know anything about any of this stuff. Let's say then Ole Miss goes and gets John Summerall from Tulane. Let's say Arkansas gets Ryan Silverfield from Memphis. Well, Memphis and Tulane might be interested in Bob Chesney more than Ole Miss, Arkansas, and LSU would be interested in Bob Chesney. So I think that if he was to leave, which I hope he does, and I enjoy covering him, it would be the second or third round of hirings that would come around once the Power 4 jobs are gone.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. He would be a good hire for whoever gets him as well. As we got another late night kick, 10:30 Eastern here, 7:30 local time in Southern California. It is San Diego State hosting San Jose State. We are seeing the Aztecs minus 11.5 to as high as minus 12.5 as the home favorite. 50 being the total here, Matt. We already talked about San Jose State and that head-scratching loss last week. Now they're going on the road. Pretty good Aztecs team here. They are catching doubles. Are you liking anything in San Diego?
So the interesting thing here is how many potent offenses have San Diego State's got a great defense. They have a better defense than JMU statistically, which is great, which is funny because the JMU statistics are incredible. The problem is for me, how many really good teams has San Diego State faced offensively? Now, if we're talking about a San Jose State team that has no interest in playing anymore and is kind of ready to end the season, they do not have a bowl game in their future. They're 3-7. Then this should be an easy victory for San Diego State. I'm looking over now at San Diego State. The best offense they may have faced is Cal, maybe Hawaii, but Hawaii might be, and Hawaii scored 38 on them on the islands. So I wonder here about San Jose State's viability here. I was heavily considering and still may consider taking the 17.5 under for San Jose State's points here. The other interesting thing is this week, San Jose State fired their defensive coordinator and fired their special teams coordinator. This week, with 2 games left, they fired them. So I really wonder where this team's head's at. San Diego State will be without wide receiver Jordan Napier. He's out for the rest of the season with a knee injury. They're coming off the win over Boise State. They're in the driver's seat for a Mountain West championship game berth. I think they win this game. My question is San Jose State's offense still there, or is this team ready to go into the offseason, and this one's going to be a blowout victory for San Diego State?
Matt, we got a rivalry game up next, the Battle of I-10, Las Cruces, New Mexico to El Paso, Texas. A beautiful ride there, about 45 minutes. I've made it. We get UTEP at home in the Sun Bowl, minus 3-point home favorites, pretty much across the board, 45 being the total. New Mexico State, UTEP, Battle of I-10 here, Matt.
Oh, boy. And by the way, the rivalry's pausing after this. They're not playing for some time after this year. So this is the last game in a while. Scotty Walden this week was quoted as saying, this is our bowl game, and it obviously has to be. They're 2-8. New Mexico State's 3-7. Logan Fife, questionable for this game. He took a huge hit last game and didn't come back, but the coach seems to think he is going to play this week. But, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I don't think anybody that New Mexico State puts out there is any good offensively. I kind of lean to the home team here. It's probably not a game I'm going to bet on because there's just my betting for the last couple of weeks is based off of motivation and stuff like that. There's no motivation other than the rivalry here for this game. I usually lean in this situation to the home team. You're essentially getting the home team value with the 3 points, although I don't know how much home field advantage UTEP has in this situation. But I like Scotty Walden as the head coach. He hasn't done great at that school. So I have a slight lean to UTEP, but probably not going to play that game.
All right, we'll move down the list here. A big one, arguably the biggest game of the weekend, College Game Day, going to be there in Eugene, Oregon. This is 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 local time. USC at Oregon, the Ducks. Minus 9.5 at most shops. There is minus 10 out there. 59 being the total as the Trojans visit Oregon, the Ducks.
So Oregon's got the best pass defense in the country. Problem is they played nobody. I mean, if you look at their schedule, for the most part, they played Penn State before, they had their issues. And then they played Indiana and they gave up 30 to Indiana. So, all the numbers that Oregon has defensively, are they really that good defensively, or is it kind of hollow? USC's on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs. So they need to win this game to get in. They would love to get, an outright win would probably get them into the college football playoffs. They have a lot of injuries in their running back room. So it's going to probably come down to the passing game here. So basically, Drew, it comes down to this. If you believe Oregon's numbers are false and they're not as good of a defense as their numbers say, then you take USC plus the points. If you believe in this Oregon defense and you think they're going to shut down USC, then you got to take Oregon minus the points. Or you might look at under 24.5 points for USC's offense, whatever it is. But it's all about perception. If you believe in Oregon, they're going to probably win this game. If you believe that Oregon's defense is not as good as their numbers say, then you're going to take USC in this situation.
Matt, we got next one up, Degenerate Special nominee here. It is 3:00 Eastern time, so not time-wise, but Sam Houston State and Middle Tennessee State. Not a lot of wins between these two teams, likely both in the bottom 15 of the FBS power ratings. It is MTSU at home in Murfreesboro, minus 6.5 or minus 7 as the home favorite, 52 and a hook being the total here, Matt.
I gave out the over on Middle Tennessee's win total this season. Obviously, it's not winning because they only have one. This is a terrible team. I am so mad at myself for falling for the trap. I mean, they had a ton of starters back. I thought Vadiato was a decent quarterback. I thought Derek Mason was a decent coach. I was completely wrong. It's funny because my win totals, the ones I felt the most confident about have lost, and the ones I felt less confident about or have won. So it's been one of those seasons for me this season in college football. To me, it's Sam Houston or pass. They're a bad team too. Don't get me wrong, but they've won 2 straight. The win over Delaware was an impressive one last week. So I think they're at least playing with some motivation here. I don't know what Middle Tennessee's motivation is. They've got 1 win. They're a brutal team. They shouldn't be favored over anybody. There's probably FCS programs towards the middle of the pack in the FCS who would beat them. So if you really had to bet this game, take Sam Houston plus the points. Middle Tennessee shouldn't be favored over anybody right now.
Yeah, particularly by a touchdown, man. You bring up their quarterback, Viato. He's one of those guys that started there in Murfreesboro for like multiple seasons. He just he throws a pretty football. He just hasn't gotten better as a quarterback, when
No,
you're watching him.
no, he's bad. It's just I do not like. I don't even like seeing them on my Twitter timeline. It just reminds me of the failures of me picking them to do well this season. I thought they were going to potentially make it to the conference championship. Oh, God, it was so miserable. I know we're not supposed to admit when we're wrong, but I was dead wrong on that one. So take Sam Houston plus the points here.
And it's called gambling for a reason. We've all picked some losers for sure. I know I have. We got another one here, Conference USA, Liberty and Louisiana Tech, also 3:00 Eastern here. Competitive matchup. We're seeing Liberty, the Flames, -1, pick 'em, right in that range. So competitive price tag, 45 being the total. Liberty on the road against Louisiana Tech in Ruston, Louisiana.
So Liberty was supposed to be like 10-2 this year, 9-3. They played their usual high school schedule. And they've been terrible this year. And I think Jamie Chadwell took this job thinking he was going to be gone in 2 years. Well, I think this is his second or third year at the school. And after a season like this, no one's going to want him right now because they were brutal. They don't do much well offensively. Their defense has not been as good as we thought they were. They lost in overtime last week to Florida International. They need to win out their last 2 games to even make a bowl game on a season when they probably could have won the Conference USA. And then you look at the Louisiana Tech side. Louisiana Tech lost another quarterback last week. Their third stringer is a runner more than a passer, the Cook. I don't know, Trey, K-U-K. He's their quarterback. He's more of a runner than a passer. There's a true freshman who will be the backup quarterback, Jackson Bradley. So neither of these teams are in any sort of place that I would want to back them. Louisiana Tech needs one more win to make a bowl game, but are they going to have enough quarterbacks to play a bowl game? So this one's a pass to me. I can't bet on a team playing their third string quarterback against a team that, they're nowhere near where they thought they were going to be before the season began.
And you know what makes it tough, Matt, is with these quarterbacks, even if they're young, if you watch that Miami of Ohio Buffalo game last night, I was on Buffalo. And sure enough, Miami of Ohio starts a freshman quarterback, and he looks great out of nowhere. It's just very difficult to handicap some of these guys that haven't gotten much play time.
Oh yeah, another one I got wrong. I had the over on Buffalo's win total this year, and we remember why Taquan Roberson is on his 7th school right now, because he makes some good plays. Don't get me wrong, but there is a lot of plays that he leaves on the field. That is why Buffalo is not going to go over the 7.5 this year.
They got a good wide receiving core, but I agree with you. Roberson, throwing the football, he really struggles.
Yeah, Victor Snow is an NFL player. McMillan is a very good wide receiver. Josiah Gathings, who came over from Akron, he's a really good wide receiver. They had a lot of talent. That's why I like the team. Al-Jay Henderson's a very good running back. But, man, Roberson is disappointing, to say the least, because the talent's there. It's just there's something about him that it doesn't connect all the time.
For sure, man. As we got a couple games left here, every game on the board, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you're downloading your podcasts at, every game on the board. We got Matt Josephs, ESPN Richmond, breaking it down. He knows his college football, obviously, knows his college basketball as well. Matt, do you want to throw out anything in terms of college basketball, what you're seeing out there? Anything you like?
I haven't seen a lot of high totals. My goodness, there's a lot of 160s, 170s lately. I've just seen a lot of high totals. So it makes me think college basketball scoring is up. We saw a 180 in that Illinois-Alabama game, and it went under. So I'm seeing a lot more scoring early on. I think that'll calm down a little bit. And, we're starting to see more neutral site games coming up, Feast Week. We're going to have a lot of neutral site games. So when you're handicapping those, to me, it's more about who the better team is than anything else, because the atmosphere is not really going to help anybody, to say the least.
Sure. And with ESPN Richmond there, I know you do a lot with JMU. And any updates there with JMU in the playoff push?
I don't think it's going very well. I think it's going to be the AAC team no matter what. I think even if Tulane loses to Temple this week, they'll put Navy in there. Even if Navy loses to Memphis, they'll find someone else to put in there. I think JMU is a playoff caliber team. They have one of the best defenses in the country, but the Sun Belt's not helping them. Liberty's not helping them. And their loss to Louisville, as Louisville keeps losing, that won't help them either.
Mm. I'd like to see JMU in there as well. As we got Louisville and SMU, as you're talking about Louisville here, they're catching 2.5. So SMU minus 2.5 at home, 52 being the total.
I mean, listen, I think that SMU's got that late bye week. And so SMU's had 2 weeks to get ready. They are still in the mix for the ACC championship here. I like SMU. Louisville's in that weird sandwich situation. Tough loss to Clemson. Kentucky next week. Huge rivalry game. I just kind of like SMU here as the fresher team late, coming off the bye week and having 2 weeks to prepare for this one. So give me SMU. Once again, money line should be relatively reasonable because it's a 2.5 spread. So I'll take SMU on the money line.
All right, Matt, we got a last game here for this segment. We'll bring in Robbie Vino in about an hour to finish every game on the board for week 13. But we're finishing this segment with a good one here, Matt. 189-190, 2 o'clock Eastern. It is Missouri State and Kennesaw State, two of the best teams in Conference USA, 56 being the total, -6 and a hook across the board. That's what it opened at, and that's what we're seeing right now. That is Kennesaw State at home, just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Kennesaw, Georgia. It is Kennesaw hosting Missouri State.
So remember, because the NCAA is stupid, Missouri State can't make the Conference USA championship game. So they're basically playing out the string these last couple games, and then I'm sure they're going to sue the NCAA and try and get into a bowl game and hope what happened to JMU and Jacksonville State happens to them when basically the bowls didn't have enough teams, and so they took JMU and they took Jacksonville State into the bowl games. So basically, Missouri State, who's been one of the best stories in college football, considering this is their first year as FBS, they're 7-3, they're 5-1. They had a chance to make the Conference USA championship. They've been impressive, 8-2 in their last 10 road games. They're second in total defense in the conference, and they're second in rushing defense in the conference. And that matches up well against Kennesaw State, who wants to run the ball. Kennesaw State is 5-1. They have a chance to make the championship game as well, but the loss to Jacksonville State last week didn't help. I kind of like Missouri State a little bit. The weather could also play a factor here, light rain and wind. I think that's going to come into play a little bit here. I small lean to Missouri State here. I think that this team is highly motivated considering they can't make the conference championship game.
Yeah, I like Missouri State as well. I bet on them a bunch. I've won with them. Their quarterback, Jacob Clark, I believe is his name. He's a good player. I think a fifth-year senior. Their head coach, Ryan Beard, he's Bobby Petrino's son-in-law. I don't know if you knew that. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, interesting there with the family ties. But Matt, great stuff overall, man. A lot of good information here. And did you want to throw out a best bet for the people? Try to go back to back here.
I'm gonna go with this is tough. You know what? I'm gonna go to a team that's outside of our group here. I'm taking over 3.5 touchdowns for JMU. It's plus 105 on DraftKings. They need style points. I know Washington State's got a good defense. They held Virginia down. They held Ole Miss down. I question what the motivation was for both of those teams. JMU has the utmost motivation here. Senior day. They need to score a lot of points. They need to put on a show for everyone so they can stay in the positive graces of the committee here. I think this is a team that has to score touchdowns late, even if their game is in doubt. So give me over 3.5 touchdowns for JMU here. I think the Dukes put on a show here, even against a tough Washington State defense. Because remember, Washington State coming east, early start time for this game. So what's the body clock like for Washington State? I like JMU to put up some points here. So over 3.5 touchdowns for the Dukes.
And you got it at a plus number, plus 105?
Yeah, it's plus 105. That's what it says it is, yes. It's a market. I can't bet it because it's the state of Virginia here, so we can't bet on it. So I'm looking at a website that lists what the props are right now. It says over 3.5 touchdowns, plus 105. You could also take, if you wanted to, because I know some books don't have it, over 27.5 points. It's essentially the same thing. That's more commonly available. But I'm basically giving to you, if you have the touchdowns market, over 3.5 plus 105, or if you don't, over 27.5 points for JMU. They've got to score, and they've got to look good doing it.
And one of the differences in that bet would be, do they go for it a lot, like in the red zone on fourth down? Have you noticed that?
Their field goal guy is not great. He's getting better. I don't think they will go for it as much. But I mean, it depends on game flow. I think that all depends on game flow.
Sure. Matt, anything else you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
Nope, I think we're pretty good here. I did see we had one question about the ODU Georgia Southern game. That was in our YouTube channel. I'll go over that real quick. ODU's playing great football right now. They're 7-3. Colton Joseph has been great. They're 5-0 at home, so they're going to want to finish out the home. They are on the road here. But I still think they're playing good football, and they're a team that's played pretty well on the road outside of the 2 slip-ups against Marshall and JMU. Georgia Southern still needs one more win for bowl action. I don't love J.C. French at all. I don't think he's a great quarterback here. Laying 12 is a lot on the road here. You know how I kind of am, Drew. I don't like laying that many points on the road. I think ODU wins this game. Georgia Southern might cover, though, because they need to get another win for bowl eligibility.
Like it, Matt. Great stuff, man. As always, guys, go give them a listen. ESPN Richmond at Mid-Major Matt. A great follow there on Twitter. Matt, enjoy the weekend, man. Cash those tickets.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, we'll be right back with Robbie Vino finishing off every game on the board.